Breaking news: the popularity of Hamas is skyrocketing among Palestinians as Israel battles to dismantle the group. The militant group's support among Palestinians seems to be skyrocketing over the past 2 months, despite Israel's war against it. Hamas made the most important action against Israel since its existence, says Nihat Abughosh, a Palestinian journalist and political analyst who describes himself as a secular moderate. The 7th of October is something like a miracle to me, he tells NPR in an interview conducted in Ramallah, in the West Bank, which is occupied by Israel. A large portion of the Western world and Israel consider the Hamas assault on October 7th, which claimed the lives of over 1,200 people, including women and children, as an act of terrorism. U.S. policy has long included Hamas as a foreign terrorist group. On the other hand, many Palestinians see October 7th as a perfectly legal form of resistance. In over 2 weeks of interviews conducted in the West Bank, which is currently under Israeli occupation, dozens of people expressed their refusal to accept the evidence that civilians were targeted and killed by Hamas. Palestinians see an assault that Israelis see as savage terrorism as a form of resistance. According to Fadi Karan, an organizer and activist from the West Bank who is involved with the progressive advocacy group of Oz, the reports of violence committed by Hamas against women and children deeply disturb him. However, he claims that a large number of Palestinians do not believe those accounts. According to the Quran, Palestinians do not condone the killing of innocent people. From the first day, there was a question on many Palestinians' minds: is this all true? According to the Quran, he is in favor of ending the war peacefully. However, in his opinion, a large number of Palestinians now view Hamas as an emblem of courage and resistance to Israel's occupation. This idea that Gaza, after 17 years of blockade, was capable of challenging the blockade, challenging the military occupation, was seen as an inspiring act of resistance. According to him, the increase in Hamas support in the West Bank seems to be reflected in surveys carried out since October 7th. 3 months ago, we had 12% support for Hamas in the West Bank, and today it is 44%, so that's more than tripled, remarks Khalil Shikaki, director of the Palestinian Center for Policy and Research. The center's poll, which ran from November 22 to December 2, also found that, in the Gaza Strip, public support for Hamas increased slightly, going from 38% to 42%. While the poll indicated wide public support for Hamas' offensive against Israel, it also revealed that fewer than half of Palestinians support Hamas as an organization. December 13. Arab World for Research and Development polled West Bank Palestinians in late October and early November and found that 68% of them supported Hamas' attack on October 7. Palestinians' emancipation following resistance. Residents of the West Bank have speculated that there is an additional explanation for the meteoric rise of the Hamas brand. In a deal struck in November, Israel agreed to free hundreds of Palestinian prisoners from Israeli prisons. Many of these prisoners were held without criminal charges. In return, Hamas agreed to release some of the hostages that had been taken during the attack on October 7. That agreement was seen by many Palestinians as yet another triumph for Hamas, an indication of their growing power. The 59-year-old Hanan Barghouti, who was detained by Israel in September on suspicion of providing support to Hamas, claims that the group is making progress. She thinks she would still be behind bars if it weren't for the pressure from Hamas, which led to her release last month as part of the hostage-for-prisoner exchange. In an interview with NPR, Barghouti expressed her optimism about the recent surge in support for Hamas in the West Bank. Any person under occupation has the right to fight, she says during an interview in her home in Ramallah. Hamas' reputation has grown, not only locally but even on the international level. With her grandchildren playing nearby, Barghouti drinks coffee in her living room and says there's one more important reason why Hamas has gained support. She claims that many Palestinians now believe what Hamas and its leadership have long believed, that negotiations and peace talks with Israel are over. Palestine is for Palestinians, she declares. This is our house, our land. Radicalizing Palestinians through a conflict with Hamas. Many West Bank residents, including shopkeepers, laborers, cab drivers, farmers, and government officials, have expressed to NPR their belief that Palestinians and the State of Israel cannot live in harmony. These individuals informed NPR that despite years of talks between Israeli and Palestinian officials as well as diplomats from the United States and other nations aimed at establishing a two-state solution, the Palestinian people have achieved neither independence nor release from Israeli occupation. Palestinian surveys show that this view is widely held. According to pollster Shikaki, most Palestinians now hold the view that if they want to become independent and free of Israeli occupation, they must resort to armed struggle. And when they look around at who can deliver armed struggle, they look at what Hamas had done on October 7th, says Shikaki. The moment has arrived for Hamas' aggressive, armed strategy of resistance and confrontation with Israel, according to even many moderates. Additionally, it is stated that the official West Bank government, the more moderate Palestinian Authority, has witnessed a decline in popular support in recent years. This is allegedly due, in part, to what many Palestinians perceive as cooperation with Israeli security officials. The PA still advocates for a negotiated political settlement with Israel. Abughosh, a journalist and analyst, claims that the Palestinian Authority's poor performance in this area gives Hamas power. The ongoing air and ground attacks on Gaza by Israel, which have killed nearly 20,000 Palestinians since the war started in October, according to Gaza's health ministry, are seen by many Palestinians as proof that coexistence is impossible. More than 290 Palestinians have been killed since October 7, according to figures from the United Nations, as a result of increased violence by Israeli settlers and more aggressive raids into refugee camps by the Israeli military. Quran, who does not back Hamas and advocates for a peaceful resolution to the conflict, claims the non-stop violence is really radicalizing all Palestinian society. The general populace views anyone who openly declares their allegiance to Israel with suspicion.